welcome to our meeting of Tuesday, the 9th of September 2025. Today's meeting will see a presentation on unlicensed waste disposal facilities as per a request from the committee. We will then have a presentation on the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning's first quarterly performance and expenditure report for April to June 2025. We will then have a presentation on Cape Nature's first quarterly performance and expenditure report from April to June 2025, and the Department of Local Government on the first quarterly performance and expenditure report for April to June 2025. Colleagues, I'm going to now give an opportunity for a brief moment of silence. Thank you very much. Mr. Kutsia, can I just check, do we have any apologies for today's meeting?
Morning, Chairperson. Morning, members. Chairperson, no apologies from any of the members. I did, however, receive an apology for Mr. Anwar Ghafoor from the Department of Environmental Affairs, but I'm sure the head of the department will also submit his apology.
Thank you very much, and I'm glad to see we have the Minister joining us today. Minister, you're very welcome, and we'll go through some introductions in a sec. If we would then start with introductions of members of the committee. I am Dave Bryant, the chairperson of the Standing Committee on Local Government, Environment and Development Planning. We can then move on to the other members online.
Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Minister, and the department. My name is Noko Masipa. I'm a member of this portfolio committee. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair, honourable members, Minister and officials. I'm Leon van Wyk. I'm a member of this committee.
Good morning, Chair. I am Dirk Wessels, and I'm also a member of this committee. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, MEC. Good morning, colleagues. My name is Noel Constable, and I'm also a member of this committee. Thank you.
Good morning, Chair. Good morning, members. Grant Marie, and I'm a member of this committee. Thank you.
Good morning, Chairperson. My name is Beauty Stoffel, and I'm also a member of the committee.
All right, those are all members. Good to have everybody present. We'll then move on to our first presentation. I'd just like to welcome Minister Bradell and his team. I don't have a full list of all of the officials who are present today, and I don't think it's necessary for us to go through every single person who's online. But perhaps, Minister, I'll hand over to you to introduce. Sorry, Member Masipa, you're just going to turn your. Can you just mute yourself, if possible? Okay. Minister, if I'll hand over to you, if you can just introduce the first presentation on the unlicensed waste disposal facilities and hand over to the officials for that first presentation. Thank you.
Chairperson, thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity. The team prepared the presentation. This is a very important conversation, I think, for us as the department, as well as for the Standing Committee. Waste in this province has come a long way, and unfortunately, yes, that's how waste work. If you try to skip a cycle, you're going to fall back. So there was a huge effort to first license the unlicensed dumping sites, and then to start to rehabilitate those that didn't get their licenses, and we're still within those kind of processes. And then obviously to get those who've got license to work within the licensing space. But then we all know that waste has become a big issue in our communities, etc. The province had this vision that we're going to get waste to regional waste sites. That also has become some of an issue because it's very difficult to get the municipalities to work together. the distances, etc. And I think this is a very important conversation. So I'm very glad that the Standing Committee give us the chance as the province to present and then have an open debate on the issue. So with that, I'm going to hand over to my HOD. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Minister. Good morning, everybody. We thank you for the opportunity for the department to brief the committee this morning on this important matter, as Minister have also now amplified. We do have, as part of the team for this briefing session, Gottlieb Arendse as the Chief Director, responsible for amongst other things, the waste management. And then we have Salim Haider as the Director of Waste Management. And we have put together a presentation, and we're asking that Salim present. And we will allow enough time for, obviously, for questions and discussion. Thank you for the opportunity. Salim.
Honourable Chair, honourable members, Minister Bradell, HOD Gerber and colleagues, good morning to everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to present. I'm going to put my camera off and try and share the screen. Just do let me know if you all see it in presentation mode. All right, I hope and trust that everyone can see that. Yeah, I'm just going to take you through the unlicensed waste disposal facilities in the Western Cape. Initially, at the last Standing Committee meeting, we indicated there were 14. There's actually a total of 16. There's another 2 that has sort of, that was also found to be not licensed, or that has sort of had the licenses lapsed. And I will just briefly take everyone through in terms of where they are, how it sort of arose, and what the department has been doing to date around this issue as well. What I think is quite important is maybe just to take you through the terminology, and there's 2 important terminologies I wanted to just focus on. The first one being around what is a waste management license. One will see the word waste management permit or waste management license sort of used interchangeably. It used to be permits before. The competent authority, that is the party that actually issues this permit, it used to be the Department of Water Affairs and Forestry, as it was known then, now Department of Water and Sanitation, but that function has since been shifted. So if it's hazardous waste facilities, that is the competent authorities, then the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and the Environment, that's the National Department. And if it's any general facilities and also now low hazardous facilities, then that function has shifted to the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning, or in other words, all the provinces have actually got that particular function. So a license really is just, it's required in South Africa for all the activities like collecting, transporting, storing, treating, recycling and disposing of waste. That is to ensure that these operations comply with environmental regulations and protect public health. Now, I've placed some of those words in green, and I've also used the acronym NNS there in green. That is actually the new norms and standards that have come about, just to facilitate. So these are new mechanisms that have come to the fore just to take a lot of the red tape and burden off in terms of licensing or ensuring that these facilities are properly authorized. And that would imply for the collecting, transporting, storing, treating and recycling. Disposal is also under norms and standards since 2013. But in the case of disposal, it's actually become a lot more onerous in terms of the liner requirements that are required. So as mentioned, it's granted by a competent authority following a process that includes an environmental impact assessment to prevent negative environmental effects from listed waste activities. So in these, once the license is granted, there's also conditions that come with it, and these are the conditions that would need to be complied with. So it needs to fulfill the requirements of legislation, and in the case of waste management, it's the National Environmental Management Waste Act 2008 in South Africa. So yeah, as also mentioned, these licenses will stipulate specific conditions, what you can do, may not do, how facilities at least should be operated, and how it should be done in a environmental friendly way. And also what needs to be done should there be any negative impacts coming from the activities that is there. Then the other important terminology I wanted to just go through is the issue around decommissioning. And this is actually one of the key issues that resulted in a lot of these, in fact, all of these facilities being unlicensed. And yeah, it's important to understand what decommissioning is. So decommissioning really is, it's the planning for and management and remediation of the closure of a facility that is in operation and that no longer operates. So when you do issue a license, these are not infinite. Sites will tend to reach its capacity and then it would need to be closed down. And decommissioning really is that part of the closure that leads to the planning, management and remediation once closure takes place. So closure is really a part of the decommissioning process. So many of the 2014 facilities, they were issued with these decommissioning licenses with conditions for disposal until closure. Now, decommissioning is a listed activity as well as the disposal of waste. And then there's also dates by which decommissioning need to commence. So normally one would give a period, on average is about 5 years. So 5 years before the site actually reaches capacity, a municipality or the permit holder, license holder need to actually start with a plan, ensuring there's a budget, ensuring what would need to be done. And when that date comes to closure, to actually carry through the whole decommissioning process, which is closing it, rehabilitating it, ensuring that it is then restored back to its sort of normal self, in that it can also blend in with the sort of surrounding environment that is there. So as said, this must happen within a stipulated period from the date of issue. I've used 5 years. 5 years is a sort of average, but it can be 3 years, can be a bit longer, but that is generally the sort of period that a decommissioning activity needs to commence by. And if it doesn't occur within that period, then the validity of that permit or license will lapse. And a new application must then be made in order for the activity to be undertaken. So quite often, municipalities don't do the decommissioning in time. They are forewarned, they are informed that your date is coming up. Please provide a decommissioning, which is the plan, and also ensuring that the budget and the activities are sort of provided to this department. And if that doesn't happen by that date, then unfortunately that license will lapse. So of the 14 or 16 licenses as it is now, these are the areas and these are the facilities that have since lapsed, that do not have a valid license anymore. So it's 5 in Cederberg, it's 2 in Kannaland, 1 in Knysna, 4 in Matsikama, 2 in Oudtshoorn, and 2 in Saldanha Bay as well. So these are the facilities that are there. Some of them are still operational, but in essence, these facilities need to be closed and they need to be decommissioned as such. Now, oops, sorry. Now, this is just a slide indicating the new sort of facility, regional facility that is operational now in the West Coast District. So those municipalities of Cederberg and Matsikama, this was created for those sites to actually close and for waste to be taken to this facility. As you can see, it is a properly engineered, lined facility. So all the necessary environmental issues are in place, really a state-of-the-art facility, etc. But as a number of the municipalities have not budgeted accordingly for the actual transportation and disposal at these sites, they are still operating some of their facilities in order just to ensure that the waste is disposed. But technically speaking, those sites should have been closed so that the waste should be coming to this particular facility. Again, I mention, and I use the slide quite often because our focus in the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning when it comes to waste management matters is not to concentrate solely on disposal of waste. In other words, take all the waste and bury it. That is just the safety net that needs to be there. Our main focus and attention is actually around waste minimization, circular economy, to see what is the best we can get out of the waste stream so that it can drive the economy, it can actually drive and ensure that products are used for much longer and that we don't need to fill up unnecessary airspace. And disposal has also become a lot more expensive compared to a few years ago, based on the new regulations that are currently in place. So the reasons for the lapsing, as I said, it's basically that municipalities had the decommissioning dates in their licenses. They did not decommission the facilities in time, and that created for this license to lapse. Many reminders were sent out to these municipalities around this, but a lot of them were just ignored, and nothing was really forwarded to us for that. So the validity date is still applicable due to not starting the decommissioning process within 5 years of that license being lapsed. And as I've indicated, that is really the sort of time period that most of them are sort of given within which to do the decommissioning. And some of them are no longer operational. Some of them are still operational, but should actually have been closed as well. So in effect, they should all have been decommissioned at this stage. And yeah, we do the departmental audits as well. And when doing these departmental audits, again, the validity of the licenses are also brought to the municipality's attention at that stage. So it's at the time of doing the audits, as well as also sending out letters to municipalities to indicate to them that you need to actually decommission your facilities. And once the license is lapsed, unfortunately, they will need to go through a whole new application process as well. So why did this sort of result? Well, from our own side, there are internal staff shortages, so it's very difficult to constantly be on the back of every municipality that's out there. There's quite a number of facilities that we need to basically keep an eye on. And currently, there's only 2 case officers that's there, plus the managers that we've got in place. Then the second point is municipalities, they don't have the funds for the implementation of the decommissioning and the rehabilitation of licensing processes. So many of these licenses were written quite a while ago when these conditions were put in place. One of the key issues that did come about was the COVID-19 pandemic, which actually resulted in a lot of shifting of budgets to try and overcome this sort of unforeseen incident. Waste management was one of the key areas that did sort of take a big knock with that. And there's been a sort of, there's a lot of catch up that would now need to come with that as well. And in fact, to rehabilitate and to cap facilities are costly, as it needs to be done with an engineering and strict engineering standards that's there as well. So we're looking at millions of rands within which to do the actual closure as such. And then, of course, there's also the lack of waste management officers at municipalities to take responsibility of the license conditions that are there. So we've been going on with a lot of the municipalities to please ensure that you designate. It's not an appointment, it's a designation of a member of staff to be the waste management officer, so that we have got someone that we can actually liaise with directly in terms of taking care of all the license conditions that are there. So once you've reached that date, unfortunately, your license will lapse. When it is communicated that they have actually done the commencement of decommissioning, then evidence need to be provided. That is not forthcoming, unfortunately. And if there is no commencement evident, then they will need to reapply for a waste management license. So they need to go through a whole new application process, which is also costly. So it's quite important for municipalities to, or permit holders, shall I say, to actually keep a close eye on these sort of dates, on the conditions contained within their license, so as not to get to this particular stage. So they will need to go through a whole basic assessment process and reapply for a license according to category A314 that is there in the Act. So yeah, that is basically where we are at. I'm not sure if there's any questions, but happy to take that from this point onwards.
Thank you very much for the presentation and also, Minister, for the introduction. I've got a couple of questions myself, but I'm going to let colleagues open up with questions first. I've got Honourable Masipa with his hand up first.
Hi, thank you, Chair, and really thank you for the presentation. I think I have got a question with regards to municipalities that are not complying. And I think what you stated is that during audit, obviously, the validity of the license come out to question. So I think the real question is, what is the implication, and how can you support, or how can we support from our side in terms of compliance, improving this compliance? And if there is a funding gap, is there a possibility that once-off support can be provided? And if it's possible to provide, what is the sustainability, going forward? Because I mean, it's okay to assist them, to decommission all their infrastructure work there. But the question is, how would they be sustainable? Would they be able to use the new facility for waste management? I'm really asking this because I think it's a concern for us in terms of our waste management and polluted rivers and so forth. So, I mean, the work that you are doing in encouraging this municipality really to manage the waste properly, is recommended. And really, you have got my support, and I'm sure you've got the committee support. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks, Member Masipa. Member Constable.
Thank you very much, and thanks for the presentation. I think my question, or maybe not a question, but a comment kind of question, link with Member Masipa. I think Chair and MEC and colleagues, Mr. Gerber, I think waste is becoming a big contestation problem, kind of service delivery issue within not only the Western Cape, but the country and all over the world. And what comes out from the presentation and what you constantly highlight is funding. And I know municipalities is struggling with this service delivery issue with regards to funding and how to deal with waste management within their specific municipal areas. So, MEC, my question really isn't it time for us to change the type of funding model when it comes to waste management? Municipalities alone will not be able to deal with this issue, and it's becoming a real problem. The lifespan when it comes to the cells within waste management facilities between 5 and 20 years, but that will become a bigger problem when most or more municipalities falls into this problem of decommissioning and not be able to fund this kind of operations. So what is the thinking going forward, MEC? I know Mr. Gerber and your department is doing a lot of work assisting municipalities, but what is the kind of lobbying that we as a province can do to national and international fundings when it comes to this kind of operations, assisting municipalities and even assisting this department? I mean, 2 case officers to deal with all the municipalities within the Western Cape. That is not enough. And the case officers, the knowledge, the municipalities with the waste management or waste management officers within the municipalities. Not all municipalities have the funding to even designate or appoint such municipalities. Then there's the equipment. That equipment is very expensive for municipalities to buy and then to maintain that equipment. So what is the thinking? What can we do? How can we change this kind of funding and assisting municipalities? Thank you, Chair.
Member Stoffel.
Good morning, Chairperson again. Am I audible, Chair? Chair?
Yes, you are. Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, thank you very much, Chairperson. Chairperson, let me really appreciate the presentation and also the input from the MEC. This department is very close to my heart. If you can allow me, Chair, also just to touch or to ask the MEC in terms of his input, just to touch on one thing there that you have mentioned in terms of the regional waste site. MEC, I know it might be a good idea, but in real fact, myself and yourself and the committee knows we've got this funding challenge. And currently, even as Member Constable have indicated, the municipalities, especially the small municipalities, can't even maintain the current waste sites. So in terms of funding, really, it's a huge challenge, and to address most of the issues within our municipalities. But I want to come to the presentation from Mr. Salim. Mr. Salim, your presentation is very straightforward. You are very honest in terms of the municipalities that is not really cooperating when it comes to waste sites. And then in terms even the administration itself. Now, I want to check with you, what was the department doing about those municipalities that don't comply within the prescribed time to prevent this unnecessary administrative processes that they are costing to the municipality? And then also, in terms of the status, I've noted on your presentation, you have indicated that in Ghanaland is 2 waste sites, landfill sites. One is in, or 2 is in, one is in Kalisdorp, or one is in Van Beeksdorp, whatever. If you know the distance, let's say that waste site's been closed at the end of the day. You know the distance from Kalisdorp to Ladysmith town. To bring that refuse to Ladysmith, it will cost a lot of money. And office currently, you are sitting with the municipality that is bankrupt, that is under under the FRP, and a lot of dynamics. So I just wanted to check, how are you dealing in terms of the compliance of that? Because if people don't do their work, there should be actions. There should be actions. We can't come to the committee every time we complain. And then also the status of the Zuar landfill site. I want a status on that, because I was there, I've looked at it, and it's not in a good condition because there is this tar road that was being picked up by Hendra. They take the rubble, they go and put it there, and unfortunately now the people cannot make use of that landfill site. I want to know what is the real status of that landfill site, and what is your office doing about that condition of that landfill site. I thank you, Chairperson.
Thank you very much, Member Stoffel. I just want to quickly check and see if we have any other hands. Okay, we've got Member Vessel. All right, what I'm going to do, I'm going to allow for those 3 questions first. Member Vessels, I'll take you first in the next round because I also have some questions and I think maybe somebody else might also want to ask a question. So I'm going to give the Minister and the HOD and his team an opportunity to respond to those questions that have just come through now.
Thank you, Chairperson, and thank you to the members for the questions. Yeah, it's a difficult one, members, and Member Stoffels, and the committee must not see this as we come and complain. We share with you our challenges, and hopefully you also do have, we know you do have experience on the ground and share ideas and see how we can build it. Obviously, there's a lot of work that we still need to do and education within the refuge system, because recycling, I think we can do a lot more on the recycling, and therefore reducing the amount of waste going to the landfill sites, those kind of things. But unfortunately, money is a problem and it's going to stay a problem, because where must we get the money from? From education or health or also? So the fact that we work within an environment where the economy is down, that is problematic. And you will know that I push very hard for a new financial model, because I think in the system there's enough money in total, but it's the money that's getting channeled through to us that we need to debate from a national level to a provincial level to a local level. And then obviously keep on looking at new technology, how we can bring it in. I think that personally, I think we need to see to how can we deal with waste closer to the source. In other words, I don't know if the regional sites is just not going to escalate the problem, but we need to do something, and looking at technology, looking at how you can rethink the system. And therefore, we also in front of the standing committee, not coming with that we know it all and that we've got all the solutions, but that we share with you the challenges that we face, and that we do hold municipalities accountable. But the problem with that in the environmental sector, and I had this conversation also in Nice now, for instance, where the MM and the mayor will most probably now, or they in court currently, and there will be serious fines. The thing is that what I think needs to happen is that when there's a fine, the fine must speak to the problem, so it doesn't go into the fiscus, but it goes to fix the problem. That will help us. Otherwise, fines won't help us. So we need to keep on working with these municipalities. They've also got service delivery challenges on different levels, on water, on electricity, on sanitation, etc., and on waste. So waste is but one leg of that. And if you look at the list of municipalities that's problematic, you will see it's normally the financially struggling municipalities. So yeah, this is not something that's just going to disappear. So we need to keep on talking, need to take into account what the standing committee's views are, and keep on building the system. With that, I'm going to hand over to the HOD and to Gottlieb. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. Thank you to the members for those questions. I'll give an initial response and then I'll ask Gottlieb and Salim to come in. These are important questions in terms of the funding and the capacity of the municipalities. These waste sites are municipal assets, and therefore it is about good financial management and asset management by municipalities to consider the asset management requirements over the life of an asset, and in terms of waste sites, that would include what would be required in terms of ultimately closing, rehabilitating, and whatever uses might follow. And therefore it is an asset management issue first, to also do the asset replacement over time. But then it goes to the financing question about do we see it coming through in the asset management plans? Do we see it come through in the municipal planning in terms of the projects being proposed to by a certain time, access the required funding in order to implement these closure plans? We provided the assistance, with the national in terms of doing the planning with the municipalities in order to decide on the closure, and then of course it was to implement. We are busy exploring in terms of the alternative and blended financing, the use of BF, the budget facility for infrastructure, and I want Salim to touch on that. And that's in terms of these current facilities, but as Salim have touched on, the key thing is that waste is expensive to manage, and therefore the waste diversion and the alternative means through which to do it is so critical, because we want as little waste as possible to go to these waste disposal facilities, and therefore does require then the investment in the system in order to prevent waste, to minimize waste, to divert the waste, to recycle the waste. And yes, there's economies of scale. That's where the regional recommendations and options were coming from. But it is for the municipalities to decide on the options and the support that we will be providing. But maybe to ask Gottlieb maybe first, and then Salim, in terms of maybe the work that we've already done and where we're going in terms of providing the support to the municipalities. Thank you.
Thank you, Gerrit. Good morning, members. So just to add, and I'll go into, let Salim get more into the detail, but I think it's important to know that we are dealing with a system, and municipalities need to look at waste management as a system. So you can't, as Salim has mentioned, where our landfills or waste disposal facilities, as it's called, is our last resort. When we're looking at minimization, we also have to look at economies of scale, because as you member Stoffels have mentioned, the distances between just two towns within Kannaland, which can make an impact. So when we are looking at waste diversion, first of all, is to put that systems in place, and also look at economies of scale, and bring, as Minister Bradell has mentioned, to bring then on other facilities, alternate facilities within the system. So we are looking at material recovery facilities, drop-offs, buyback centers, those sort of things, in order to get the scale, so that the transport cost is also then makes it more viable, because some of the municipalities or these towns are also quite a distance from the markets, which is basically in Cape Town, most of the markets. So this is what's required, but it's also about partnerships. It's about partnerships, and we have priority waste streams and falling under the extended producer responsibility schemes, where municipalities can work with the PROs. These are the which falls under EPR schemes, your product responsibility organizations, going into partnerships with them, seeing what also they can bring to the party in terms of infrastructure, and also in terms of leverage then the transport aspect. So yes, Member Constable, the issue around funding models and what we also doing, and this also relate to Member Masipa's question in terms of, again, funding. The Minister have touched on this. How do we make it sustainable, and what are we doing in terms of supporting? HOD Gerber mentioned also in terms of what we're exploring with infrastructure, and Salim can go into more detail regarding BFI application and getting that, and also our challenges around it. But what we have done, especially on where we're looking at the equipment used at municipalities, especially on landfills, We have supported applications, and we encourage also municipalities to put in applications to access the yellow fleet applications as part of the MIG funding. And then also, as HOD Gerber has mentioned, when we are looking at, do municipalities bring their integrated plans costing into the IDP so that it can be funded. So it's as I said, it's a whole systems approach. It's a multi-prong approach when we deal with waste management, but certainly in terms of we constantly looking at how do we support municipalities, and there has been also, we then bring in also SMMEs into the fold, integration within their systems, so that you can also provide this job creation, but also in looking at minimizing, your cost of your operations. Tariff setting is important aspect. Full cost accounting that's not been done. We had also where other municipalities, which is getting it right, it's sharing their models within our Waste Management Officers Forum. We had a specific last year looking at the costing model and how municipalities, those which are making a difference, they are looking at their costing, their tariff setting, and sharing that with our other waste management officers. So so I'll pass on to Salim to maybe take us a bit more in detail to various aspects. Thank you, members.
Thank you, colleagues, for answering and taking us through to some of the questions that were posed. I think maybe just to take, and thank you for the questions from all three honourable members. I think these are good questions. I'm going to take the two from Honourable Masipa and Honourable Constable and sort of try and group them. I know that Honourable Masipa said, what's the implication and how can we sort of do the support, even if it's once of support, how do we go forward? Maybe just to come back and indicate that if we continue on this tangent where we are at, I think if we come back in 10 years' time, we'll probably still be talking about exactly the same thing, if not that things have become a little bit more worse. So we really need to look at doing things completely differently. How things operated, let's say 20 years ago, is completely different to how things are now. Things have become a lot more expensive. We can feel it with not just waste, but I think energy, electricity, water, costs have escalated. And waste management previously was probably seen as a half-day job by many of the municipalities. There wasn't enough resources put behind it. And unfortunately, what has resulted was they either put a cost of either no cost or a cost of about 100 Rand or 200 Rand per ton to dispose of the waste, when the actual cost of disposal is anywhere close to, at current cost, we're probably looking at about 1,100, 1,200 Rand a ton. If we look at the most expensive cost for tariffs, we're probably looking at about 600 and odd, and that is in the Western Cape. The other municipalities around the country is still much lower, and their sort of backlog is actually more and more, which is probably why we're doing a little bit better than the others, although a lot more can still be done from our side as well. So we've heard about this whole BFI application, budgetary framework for infrastructure, and I do believe that is the way that we need to go. Because what has happened was there's a huge backlog because of improper costing in terms of waste management that has taken place over the years. And this study was comprehensively done back in 2015 by a consultant that was appointed in terms of what do municipalities around the Western Cape need in terms of infrastructure to be able to basically provide proper waste management services. That figure came to 1.96 billion back in 2015, and in March of this year, we actually had that report updated, a desktop study to have it updated, and the current cost of backlog that we're looking at throughout the entire Western Cape is 3.1 billion Rand. So that is really the sort of funding that we want to apply for as a department from Treasury, to try and assist all these municipalities in terms of making up this backlog, making up the shortfall so that we can go forward. Unfortunately, the scope of work, 3.1 billion, nobody will just hand it over to you. There's a lot of groundwork, paperwork, plans that need to be in place, which unfortunately this department and our own structure as it is will not be able to put all of that together. So we'll probably need somewhere in the order of, I'm estimating $1 million to $1.5 million to appoint a dedicated service provider to be able to do this work for us in order to be spade ready and put the application to Treasury for that money to support these municipalities. So that is really what we are currently on. And HOD Gerber mentioned the issue around alternative blending finance mechanisms that we need to look at. In fact, there was someone that has listened to the same presentation, not this presentation, but around the BFI application, and indicated that perhaps they can help us. But we need to also watch our supply chain processes and make sure that everything is above board to be able to get that going. But that will be key and crucial in terms of supporting, helping, and trying to basically wipe the slate clean for a lot of these municipalities that we know will never be able to afford the backlog that they need to make up. So this is one of the key thinkings that's there. If one look at, and coming back to Honourable Stoffel's question, that, yeah, these things are really difficult, and especially with more remote towns that's there. We have put in the issue around regionalization to try and make it easier, consolidate, make sure that funds are sort of grouped together, that everyone doesn't carry individual costs and have to go through onerous legislation in terms of putting sites together. However, there are a key, and Gottlieb has mentioned, it is a system sort of effect. And one of the key systems that's not there, that should be in place, is actually rail. Because transport is where the bulk of the waste cost comes in. It's probably about 70% of the costs. And if we had rail in place, it would have actually made a much bigger difference and a much improvement to where we are at in terms of affordability as well. I know that our Department of Mobility is actually addressing this problem as well. And hopefully, as we go along, we'd be able to put this in place. But it's going to be medium to long term before we can see rail in place as well. The one area, the one region that do not have a regional facility, and it's because of this remoteness that we're looking at, is actually the Central Karoo District Municipality. It's not even... Yeah, we're not sure whether it is feasible to put a regional facility there with these long distances, with no infrastructure. But we are looking at the whole area from a completely different lens and perspective, because if one just consider that whole region, Beaufort West, it's currently the middle of nowhere, but I can actually see that it could actually be the middle of somewhere. If we look at all the sort of vehicles coming from Johannesburg, traveling down to Cape Town, what about if we convert that place into the center of bioenergy, biofuels, where trucks can stop and fill up, and we actually design the system in such a way that we could actually get that going. So these are some of the thoughts and processes that's in place where, it's not a one size fits all, but we need to look at things a little bit more open-mindedly in terms of what could possibly work. We've seen from the Waste Economy Master Plan that 17 billion rands worth of resources are landfill in this country annually. Now, that is a waste, and we really need to try and see what we can unlock. As mentioned, it's not disposal, must not be seen as the first port of call. It's there for that which we can't manage and handle or do something better with. But we really need to look at the waste streams, because it's becoming more and more costly just to put waste into a hole and bury it. And I think that is key and crucial to what we need to really look at. To Honourable Stoffel's sort of question about the ZOA, so that particular site has actually closed. The municipality has stopped using it for disposal. We have been there. We did sort of report it to the environmental law enforcement officers to indicate that there's gross transgressions on licensing conditions around it. But again, what are the punitive measures for a municipality that can't even afford to keep basic service delivery on the ground? So that waste is currently going to the Ladysmith waste disposal facility. So it is dormant. And technically speaking, that site should also be closed. So hopefully, if we can get the access to a BFI application, get the funds, then that is really what needs to happen to turn it around. It's not, things are not going to turn around on its own, and there's significant funding that's going to be needed to really make a difference. Otherwise, it will just be a plaster over a big festering wound. I hope I've answered the questions, but happy to take more. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Haider. And I think the answers are quite enlightening. It's interesting to hear the points around rail as well, and the impact that that could have had on, remedying some of these challenges. Before I go to Member Wessels and Member van Beek, just a couple of questions from my side. And I also note that we are going to be running short on time soon to fit in the other presentation, so I'll try to be as quick as possible. It really is just two things. The first one is the facilities that are still operational but are operating in an unlicensed capacity. Can you just explain the legalities around that? I mean, surely there would be some form of punitive measure for a municipality that's operating illegally, effectively, and how does that work? Sorry, somebody's got their mic on.
Sorry, Chair.
Okay, no problem. Can you just expand on that? And then secondly, I think it's more just I suppose a point of concern. If one looks at where the majority of these unlicensed facilities are, we've got 5 in Cedarburg, we've got 4 in Matsikama, 2 in Kanlan, 2 in Oudtshoorn, 2 in Saldanha Bay, 1 in Knysna. Many of these are areas that are already struggling quite a bit when it comes to provision of services or challenges within the municipality, so to speak. And I wonder, without the use of these facilities, whether they would be able to process the waste. And has a sort of risk analysis been undertaken in terms of that? Member Wessels and colleagues, if I can just ask, I'm sorry to do this, but if I can ask, just if you can keep your questions as brief as possible, just so we can get through as much as possible, because we do have other presentations. Member Wessels.
Thank you very much, Chair. Yeah, so a lot of my stuff has been covered, so I hope that I will be brief. Chair, I just want to emphasize something, and I don't think we necessarily sit with a waste problem. We're sitting with a budget process problem in local authorities or in municipalities. What is the measures that this department is taking with regards to cost reflective tariff modeling? Because costing shouldn't be the issue for a municipality if a proper cost reflective tariff modeling is taking place through the budget process, because then the operation will be covered as well as the future implementation. But I think the problem that we've got is we've got a lot of municipalities that is rolling out a lot of nice to haves and unfunded mandates, leading to this problem. And then it's an easy game just to shift to province and to say, okay, well, we must be bailed out now to provide certain services. So I want to understand what is being done with regards to the budgeting processes in local authorities, and how is it that a budget is approved by province, or what role does this department play in understanding that the cost reflective tariff modeling that should be done within local authorities. Then with regards to BFI, my question is this going to be a Department of Western Cape application for BFI, and will the local authorities then be the implementing agent, or will it be the district municipalities? Reason for me asking that, I was very fortunate to be a part of a BFI application, and I can almost with certainty tell you that the local municipalities that is currently in dire need of this service will most certainly not qualify for BFI. because there is a unhealthy stigma going around, or there's no processes in place for credit control. There's no places for proper budgeting, and that is really the essence of why the municipalities are facing these financial challenges. Then, with regards to regional landfill sites, I totally agree with the previous speaker with regards to rail. I think it's immensely important that we get that up and running. But I do know from my time in a local authority that is going to be an extremely expensive exercise, and I really can't see that happening anytime soon. I would like to understand specifically the Garden Route District facility that I believe is now at a standstill again. If one can just get a brief indication of what is happening there, because I believe the local municipalities have already signed MOUs, etc., and loans has already been taken out. So those municipalities are now billing their residents for a regional landfill site that is not operational, but also not within their domain. It sits in the domain with the regional landfill sites. And that is where I see a massive risk for local entities, where you club together 5 or 7 municipalities. One municipality cannot afford it anymore, and that will have a detrimental knock-on effect to the financially viable municipalities. So I really think that there is something that we should go and revisit with regards to regional landfill sites. And that's it from me. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks, Member Wessels. Member van Wyk.
Thanks, Chair. I think I've been covered by some of the previous speakers, including Member Wessels. I suppose what I just want to add to that is that we now sit with a scourge of illegal dumping, which I think is something that has manifested itself right across the province and probably right across the country. And that is just simply adding to the costs of waste removal, of refuse removal that now needs to be undertaken. And there's probably a need there to see what type of solution possibly even at a generic level can be developed for that. Certainly recycling I think needs to be promoted and needs to be driven to a further level, because I think there's still a lot of refuse going into these landfills that could go into another direction. And then I share the view that we need to get rail to move the refuse, because certainly transport costs are huge. And I think to date, generally it has been said that there's not enough refuse to warrant any form of realistic size of incineration type of plant. However, I must say that I was on a study tour to Denmark a few years ago, and they have a big incineration type of plant. But we did not get to visit that particular plant, but I think indications are that they're also importing refuse to keep that incineration plant going. So, clearly, I suppose we need some form of studies in that regard to probably a need for a little bit more of a networking and gathering of thoughts on how to deal with some of these problems. And I think that illegal dumping is one of the bigger ones that we face right now. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Member van Wyk. Final question on this presentation will be from Member Grant Marais.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you to the Minister and the officials for the information. I'm going to try and be as brief as I can, as many of my questions have already been addressed. I just wanted to know, in terms of private sector participation in waste management. The private sectors both have contributed to the problem, but they also, to a certain degree, can become a solution to our waste management challenges. So I wanted to know, in terms of when a plant is being decommissioned, it's a major impact on the finances of the municipality, but also in that particular 5-year period, as the official said, or it can be shortened. But in the decommissioning process, do we involve any sort of private sector to take off the certain functions, or to assist with the decommissioning process, to lighten the load of, excuse me for the pun, to lighten the load of the municipality in terms of meeting license requirements or the compliance requirements? I just wanted to know that. And then in terms of the audits, when was the last audit done in terms of whether municipalities do comply with their licensing conditions? Mr. Chair, I will limit it to that for today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Member Marais, and everyone else for those questions. That is the last round of questions on this. So I will give back over to the Minister and the team for the final answers and wrap up on this presentation.
HOD, you can go.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Minister. Thank you for the questions. And I'll ask Salim to respond to it. I'll just give a quick initial response in terms of the cost-reflective tariffing and the budgeting processes. Absolutely. We participate in the drawing up of the 5-year plans of the IDPs of the municipalities, and very particular in terms of the integrated waste management plans that each municipality must compile. All the municipalities in the Western Cape do have those plans in place. What we're really focusing in on, what finds its way into the implementation plans in terms of the budgeting by the municipalities. And then there's a process as legislated where the annual reporting on the actual performance against the plans, and also in terms of the budget performance. So there is that annual process where the matters get raised, and we have been raising the fact that even if there is a waste management plan, that we're not seeing the projects coming through the fore, we're not seeing the municipalities, following the process to actually budget, even if it's their portion of what's required in order to be able to access MIG funding or other funding. So we do participate in those processes, and that's really the issue that it's being raised now very specifically as part of the budgeting and financial performance situation of each municipality. And yes, we have this backlog. So in terms of cost-reflective tariff modeling moving forward, that's absolutely critical. To now build in a tariff to make up the shortfall of not having budgeted for things and not having done the asset replacement is, of course, now the dilemma that we're sitting with. And that is why we're looking at assisting with addressing that backlog, so that moving forward, there can be better asset planning, asset replacement, better cost-reflective tariff modeling, so that the service can then actually be paid for through that system. Thank you very much. Salim?
Thank you so much for that. Yeah, lovely questions from the honourable members. I'm going to start with Honourable Chair. What happens when facilities are still operational? What's the legalities around it? Well, technically speaking, they are illegal. Not technically, in reality, they are illegal because you've got to operate within your license conditions. We need to apply our administrative functions and duties However, yeah, it needs to be also seen in light of the bigger picture. And we've heard the issue around illegal dumping, and I'm going to address that as well. Do we just go out all guns blazing at the municipality that you know are struggling, that's not getting there? It's like a poor person basically stealing a bread. What sort of punitive measures are you going to apply to it? So yes, we do need to take cognizance of the law. If things are illegal, we need to act upon it, but we try and support as much as we can. And then again, this is where the previous call in the presentation came from. Do let us liaise with a waste management officer. Now, quite a few of these municipalities do not have an appointed waste management officer. There should be 31 in total. We're sitting at 26 or 25. And it is important that that person is there so that we can have the support liaison with them. Without that person there, it's extremely difficult. We've got a waste officers forum as well, where they all come together and where we can discuss what needs to be done, how we can assist and help each other. We've got a WhatsApp group where quite a lot of these sort of questions and opportunities are sort of shared on the group itself. Just yesterday, I saw one coming through about weighbridges, and this is really why it's so important to have them in place. But yes, we want to have them there, and it's quite important to be able to address and look at the path forward. Otherwise, we'll just need to go and apply our administrative process, and that is then basically addressing the municipal manager of the municipality and issuing them with a directive or a compliance notice. We don't like doing it, but unfortunately, if there's no other options, opportunities, we have to go that particular route. But we also keep a focus on the bigger picture. Do we just close the sites and there's nowhere else to go for the waste? Could lead to illegal dumping. Yeah, rather keep it contained then at the facility, knowing it's illegal, but at least it's contained. We can keep an eye on it than seeing the spread all over the place. So it's a bit of a difficult situation. And yes, the risk analysis has been done on that. We've got to look at, what is the sort of least path of resistance in terms of getting the best out of a not legal situation. But it's just one of the things we need to move on. And that is why we've come across a lot of this, and that is why the BFI could be one of the key areas to just unlock that and give us that sort of opportunity to move ahead. Coming to Honourable Wessels' question on the budget process being the problem and what is the department doing in terms of support? It's quite important to note that this department works very closely with the Department of Local Government, and there are various structures that's in place, namely the time and time processes, the strategic and technical sort of sessions that are held with municipalities on an annual basis, where a lot of this sort of information is shared, comes across, and at the last 2 years as time and SIME sessions, waste management actually took a big focus of the discussion that took place. So mainly around the budgeting, what needs to be done to ensure that there's cost-effective tariffs. There's actually quite a lot of waste work done, but it's not billed accordingly because the whole system is not working well. So there's actually a lot of revenue lost in the process that could have been accounted for as well. So yes, so there are these sort of processes that are in place. We don't work alone as a department. There's actually quite a lot of support work and cross collaboration with the other departments in the province as well. Then in terms of the BFI, that will be a Western Cape application. In fact, it will be one of the more unique applications. In fact, the colleagues that have been handling this had indicated they've not seen an application of this nature coming to the fore, so it's going to be interesting. Normally, it's just we put the wastewater treatment works up. It's one facility. It's clearly defined. It's at one place, and you move. Here we're looking at multiple infrastructure needs over multiple municipalities, but it would actually be the Department of, at least the Western Cape Government, Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning that would be doing the application itself. With regards to the regional side, I do agree rail is going to be a fairly long-term process. Unfortunately, transport, as I mentioned, is about plus minus 70% of the cost of waste management. That is the camel's back that would need to be broken. And yeah, it's going to take a while because, and there also needs to be economies of scale to be able to justify the infrastructure cost of rail, which is also quite expensive. So one would need to look at how much waste is actually going to move over the infrastructure that is coming in. Just an update on the Garden Route District Municipality Facility. Yes, there is another sort of delay on it. In fact, the contractor that was appointed, the contract was terminated. There was non-performance on the side of the contractor previously appointed, and the municipality is going through the process of re-advertising to try and get another contractor on board. The issue with that is that the current facility, the Petro SA facility, has reached capacity. We had an urgent meeting with the Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, who is the actual competent authority, as well as with DWS, Department of Water and Sanitation. I must also note that there's a concurrent function between ourselves and Water and Sanitation with regards to licensing a facility as they issue the record of decision. They do not want to grant height extensions on any facility that's not lined. We have come to an agreement. I know they were kicking against the can of giving a height extension for Petro SA until the Garden Route sorts out the issue. But the DFFE had come on board to say it's impractical to line the facility now when there's only 15 months space required. Let's see what can be mitigated in terms of preventing further pollution, but it's going to be impractical to line that site. So yes, we're looking at plus minus anywhere between 9 to 15 months for the site to be operational. So let's hope that the new contractor can complete the works. It's currently sitting at 60% complete. All materials are there, so they just need to do the final 40% to get the site back on track. At worst case, we're looking at probably operational by December next year, and that was the sort of information provided to us. Honourable Van Wyk mentioned the issue around illegal dumping. Illegal dumping is a huge problem around the country and also in the Western Cape. As a province, we have actually we're in the stage of finalising our strategy to reduce illegal dumping. It's a document that we actually would like to share with all and sundry, and we've also mentioned this to national colleagues as well, that once it's finalized, we will share in it and try and bolster it so we can address the issue around illegal dumping, not just in the province but around the country, because just the cost of picking up waste and clearing illegal dumping, that monies could have been better spent, and that's also millions that each and every municipality is undergoing on a regular basis in terms of picking that up. In fact, the issue really is, and this is where that waste economy master plan comes in, people are throwing things away that actually does carry value, but we need to monetize it and we need to ensure that we put proper value to what is being thrown away. That's one of the key sort of strategies, so that people understand that there is value to what I'm actually dumping, and create a sort of logistical arrangement so that material can flow in a proper sort of direction, so that there's always a conduit for where this could be beneficiated and needed. Waste to energy, yes, we are exploring that as well. Yes, generally in the past, a lot of the waste to energy facilities required a high volume waste, things that we did not really generate or produce, thankfully, because we don't want to see a lot of waste being generated. But there are systems that I've come across that does handle smaller quantities, and we are exploring that. We are sort of deeply looking at it. And in terms of one municipality, Swellendam municipality has gone through a proper process in terms of exploring this. We're keeping a close eye and giving us support to that as well. So hopefully we could, we'll see where it goes to. And then if there's a successful model that can come out of it, we can try and see if that can't be replicated elsewhere. But there's a lot of learnings that's going to come from it, which will be great, and looking at the options for that as well. Then on the Honourable Marie's sort of question around the private sector, it would be great if there could be good PPPs between municipalities and the private sector. Unfortunately, in the waste sector, it has not been great. There's been a lot of disappointments in that particular arena. And then in terms of, can't we involve the private sector in terms of the whole issue around decommissioning? Decommissioning is really going to be a liability, and I don't think any company out there would want to invest in a liability as such, because we're talking about taking on millions of rands of, let's say, responsibility just to get to level terms as such. So it's becoming, it's a bit of a tricky and difficult situation, and the responsibility for that is actually on the permit holder or license holder that is there. And hence again, this is why we're looking at BFI, just to try and create that sort of even playing field so that others can then come on and actually take this issue further. So that, in future, hopefully we won't speak about waste, we'll talk about circular economy and take it from there. And then in terms of the audits, when were the last audits done where we had sites that were compliant? The Western Cape has got some very good facilities that are compliant. In fact, one of our facilities, the Karweiderskraal Regional Waste Facility, is actually at 100% compliance. It has actually achieved that on multiple occasions. So there are some very good facilities that's operational. It's probably the only one in the country that has achieved 100%. Also noting that the Western Cape is stricter in terms of its audit protocols, but we do have that. It's just unfortunate that on the other end of the scale, we do have sites that also score 3, 10%, etc. And this is really where the bulk of our focus is on, to try and just make sure that these sites can be uplifted and that we can get good scores for all the facilities in terms of their compliance ratings. I'll leave it at that and hope that I've answered everyone's question. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you to yourself and the Minister and the other officials who participated in the answers to those questions. I do see we have another hand up from Member Marais. I would like us to move on to the next presentation if possible, because we are limited in time. But Member Marais, just very quickly, if that is a follow-up, just if you can try to be as quick as possible.
Mr. Chair, thank you very much. Thank you to the official. I just wanted to make sure that I haven't missed the information. Was it disclosed to the committee when the last audit was completed in terms of the waste sites and also their licensing compliance? Thank you.
Thanks. We can just get an answer to that.
Apology, Chair. I didn't quite get the clarity on that question. If it could just be posed again.
Yeah.
Apologies for that.
You can just again, if Member Marais, can you just provide some more clarity there?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair, we normally have an audit done on these facilities. So how regularly and when was the last audit done on these facilities in the Western Cape?
Thank you so much for that. Apologies that I didn't hear it clearly the first time. We do have 48 audits that are conducted on facilities annually. So that's 12 per quarter. We try and focus predominantly on those facilities that are problematic, that's not scoring well. So these facilities were audited at least within the last, let's say within the last 24 months, there would have been a departmental audit on the bulk of these facilities that are there.
Thank you very much. Now, Member Marais, your microphone is a little bit muffled. I'm not entirely sure why, but just to make you aware of that, I don't know if maybe for the next round of questions, just try to see if you can maybe move into a different space, perhaps. All right, colleagues, we are now going to move on to the next presentations. It is the presentation from the Department of Environmental Affairs and Development Planning on the first quarterly performance and expenditure report for April to June, as well as the presentation from Cape Nature. If it is all right, we'll take both those presentations one after the other, and then take questions after that. If we have no objections to that, they are linked. I will then hand over to Minister Bradell to introduce this item, and then to the officials to take us through those presentations.
Thank you, Chair. I'm going to start hand over to the HOD to make up some time. So HOD, you can run with that.
Thank you, Chairperson. Thank you, Minister. I'll likewise, in the interest of time.
Sorry, Mr. Kaba, I don't want to interrupt you. Just very quickly, there's been a request that those two officials be excused, and yes, they may be excused. You can continue.
Thank you, Chairperson. So Gottlieb and Salim, you may exit then at this stage. Thank you, Chairperson. I'll ask Azad, as well as Johannes, CFO, to take us through the presentation in terms of the department's Q1 financial and non-financial performance. And obviously, we also have Cape Nature in the meeting, so to also allow for us to also engage with the information of Cape Nature. Thank you very much.
Good morning, Chairperson. Good morning, members and morning colleagues. Thank you, HOD. I'm Azad Said. I'm the Acting Director for Strategic and Operational Support, filling in for Anwar Kafoor. I'm just going to share my screen. Second. Are you able to see? Thank you. Okay, good morning.
Yes, we can see.
Thank you, Chair. So the first quarter performance for the department for 25-26, this was from April to June this year. Just in terms of the programs for the department, we have 7 programs within the department. First one being administration, second one environmental policy planning and coordination, third compliance and enforcement, environmental quality management, biodiversity management, environmental empowerment services, and then development planning. So just in terms of the first quarter's non-financial performance, within the APP, we have 49 indicators, and then applicable to the first quarter, there are 10 indicators. So in summary, we've achieved 5 out of the 10, 4 partially achieved, and then 1 that was not achieved, and the detail will follow shortly. So just an overview of the financial performance, and I think the CFO may allude to this afterwards, but just in terms of the vote, there was expenditure of 154,338,000, of which the department spent 71 million and Cape Nature 82 million of that 154 million. So this is just the economic classification on your goods and services. COE 65 million, the goods and services 4,700,000, and then the transfers and subsidies, which includes the departmental agencies and accounts, and that total was 144,338,000. And then this is just a slide on the budget allocations and expenditure per program, and what was also being projected for the coming quarters. So just in terms of program 1, under the administration program, there was 1 planned target, and that was also achieved in the first quarter. And that was the annual report, the approved annual gender and human rights implementation report, and that was achieved. In terms of program 2, we had no planned targets for the first quarter. And then program 3, there was 3 planned targets, of which 1 was achieved and 2 partially achieved. So the first one for program 3 was number of administrative enforcement notices issued for non-compliance with environmental legislation. We had a quarterly target of 65, and the quarterly target, planned target was 50, and we achieved 65. So this is a demand-driven indicator, and therefore the overachievement based on the complaints that was received. The second one is the number of completed criminal investigations handed to the NPA for prosecution. We had a planned target of 2, and only 1 was then achieved. But that is also due to complexities of the matter, and the department is still in the process of finalizing some of the investigations and some supplementary affidavits which is required before being handed over to the NPA. So this also being a demand-driven indicator. The last one under program 3 is the number of compliance inspections conducted. We had a planned target of 108, and we've achieved 96. And again, this one is dependent on the number of complaints received from the public and other organs of state, which then warrants an inspection that needs to be conducted. And this also being a demand-driven indicator. Under program 4, there were 3 planned targets for the first quarter, 1 achieved and 2 partially achieved. The first one that was partially achieved is actually a sector indicator, percentage of complete EIA applications finalized within legislated timeframes. The planned target for the quarter was 100%, and we managed to achieve 99%. This also being a demand-driven indicator. So making up to 99%, there was 74 that were finalized within the time frame out of 75 that were actually finalized. And then in terms of 4.1.3, the percentage of EIA non-applications timelessly responded to, we had a planned target of 95%, and then we achieved 72%, and that is also being a demand-driven indicator that we had achieved the 72%. Under subprogram 4.2, air quality management, percentage of complete atmospheric emission licenses issued within legislated timeframes, we had a planned target of 100%. Due to no applications received by the department, therefore no applications could have been finalized within timeframes, and also being a demand-driven indicator. Under program 4.3, the percentage
Chair,
of...
Apologies, Chair, if I may. Azad, you can just maybe zoom in on the not achieved 6.2.1.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, under program 6, 6.2.1, so this one was not achieved. Number of environmental maintenance activities conducted. We had a planned target of 1, nothing was achieved, and I think this was mainly due to a combination of reasons. Firstly, capacity limitations within the component of communication that is performing the function, and therefore that one was not achieved. And that also that was an additional awareness activity will then be made up during the latter part of the financial year. And then Chair, that was program 7, also all achieved, and that would then be just in terms of the summary, that is our performance for quarter 1. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much. If we can then move on to Cape Nature, I think, if you are right with that, Minister HOD.
Thank you, Chairperson. Yes, Cape Nature.
Thank you, and good morning, Honourable Chair, Minister, and members. and colleagues. I'm just going to share my screen. I'll start with the first slide, which is the summary slide, and the details are in slides 2 to 5. We have a little more than 20 targets in our annual plan. The first target being the audit opinion, because this is the report on the first quarter. The audit opinion result was not yet ready in June, but subsequently in July, we have received a clean audit opinion from the Auditor General. The second one, employment opportunities. This really refers, and the bar graph shows what the annual target is in the dark color, and in the lighter color, where our progress is to date. The second one is the employment opportunities. We have an annual target of employing 450 people in our EPWP programs. That target has been met for the annual target. We do take an intake every 3 years, and this represents the first year of that intake. So we have the 453 people employed all around the various landscapes and reserves, and including a few at the Cape Town office. Interns appointed. We have 15, and we normally have an intake at the end of the year once the interns graduate from their various fields of study. So at the moment in the organization, we do have about 20 contracted interns, but new contracts will only come in December, January, once the current final year students pass their exams. There are a few targets. You'll note at the bottom here, targets 1.4, 3.5, 3.6, 4.6, 4.7, 4.8, and 4.9. These are new targets, and because last year was a major strategic planning session for all of government, we decided to take on a few new targets. And in the first year of taking on a new target, we establish a baseline, or we're allowed to establish a baseline and identify methods of verification to say whether we've achieved those. Most of the zeros in these are those new targets that we've taken on for this year, and they generally align to socioeconomic indicators, job creation, which was an emphasis in the Western Cape strategic planning last year. So these are the ones that we're currently working on and we're testing. In addition to the socioeconomic indicators, we also have fire breaks and alien plant invasives. These are aspects that we did do previously, but we now included them to highlight them in our workings and in our annual reporting. Going back, hectares of conservation estate. For the year, we have 5,000 hectares newly declared. In the first quarter, there was groundwork being done, but nothing achieved. On that, we have declared some in the second quarter. State of conservation report that was completed and launched in June, at the end of June. Stewardship sites, we have one for the year, including the public comment process. This is in the pipeline, works done towards that. Permit applications, we have a quarterly target of at least issuing 80% of all permit applications within the timeframes that are stipulated in our various policies, and that target was achieved. The Met assessment, which is really a rating of how well, or is taken as a rating of how well the protected areas are managed. Generally, we set a target of around 88%. This is done every second year, and this is the year that it is due, so the data has been collected on the various reserves, and we should have that by the end of the third or fourth quarters on the Met assessment to see how good we are in terms of the Met scoring. Work opportunities in and around operations in the various landscapes and reserves. We have annual target of creating 700 work opportunities. To date, we already have 157. Compliance inspections. This target was again increased from last year from 100 to 200 because we want to look at compliance or voluntary compliance and create awareness that people are likely to be inspected in operations in and around reserves where Cape Nature is permitting them. So we increased that target just to increase visibility. So for the first year, this is 200. We're on track on meeting that. Criminal investigations handled to the NPA, 5 of an annual target of 30. These are the new targets I spoke of this year, where we are verifying our means of verification for internal and external audit processes. Tourism income, this year's target is 69 million, of which in the first quarter, still towards the end, enjoying the summer months, 15 million of that. This normally takes a dip in the winter months, but to date in first quarter, we've done 15 million of the own income generation. Tourism upgrades, 10 planned for the year. A lot of groundwork is done in the first quarter, so none off the ground, but there's some traction that will come to in my last slide on this. Marketing initiatives, 2 of 6 for the year. Environmental awareness campaigns and capacity building work done towards these targets with partners, stakeholders, schools programs, and various other industry associates next to reserves and regional officers on that. So that gives a summary of that. And Chair, I'm going to skip to slide number 6 because slides 2 to 5 is the detail. I'll come to those during the question time as required. In terms of financial performance, income generated just around 15 million, as I mentioned earlier. The bulk of the Cape Nature's income is on entrance fees, almost 50%. Tourism accommodation, overnight accommodation makes up the next largest income. And then wildcard sales, which is a partnership program with the National Department of Forestry, Fisheries and Environment, 5%. The whale trail continues to be a leading income generator with very long lead booking times, almost up to a year on that. So that's where the income comes in. Employee, in terms of financial expenditure for the first quarter, we planned and spent about 77% of our planned spend. The major category is employee costs, goods and services, capital expenditure. Capital expenditure, as can be expected in the first quarter, is a little bit low because the tender processes and supply chain processes have been initiated. In the first quarter, there's a lot of admin and that goes with that, and this generally pick up in the second, third, and fourth quarters, although we are tracking that. So just to give an update from July, which technically is in the first month of the second quarter, there is some slight improvement on the spend here. And just to further highlight that, number of transactions that have been concluded by the end of the first quarter and beginning of the second quarter, 178 transactions below 1 million, totaling 15 million. 4 tenders have been concluded and in the service level agreement drafting process, over 5 million. Alien invasive clearing, 10 contracts, fire break maintenance, 20 contracts, and infrastructure projects, of which we had 10, 2 have been concluded and in the contracting phase. So that's it from me, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Naidu. So if there aren't any other matters to be raised by any of the officials or the minister, I will then open up to members for questions on those 2 reports. And I am happy to take hands. I see Member Stoffel. Do we have any other hands? All right, Member Stoffel.
Thank you, Chairperson. Let me appreciate the presentation from both departments. I just want to check with the first presentation in terms of compensation of employees. Sorry, Chair, I couldn't pick up with him with the speed of his presentation because it was so fast, but you will bear with me that I've noted, Chair, on his compensation of employees instead of 100%, I'm not sure whether it's the percentage column, but he was above 106. And then at a later stage, he said it's 100% of his. There's a 6% I want to check with him. And then also, Chair, and I'm not sure which program it was, program number what, but at some stage there was supposed to be, there's 3 targets, of which 2 was being achieved, and 1 was not being achieved. So I just want to be clarified on that, Chair. I'm not sure whether it's program 3 or 2, but yes, Chair. And then also, in terms of the pollution and waste, I want to check from them is that in terms of the awareness of this, is there any programs that they are presenting or they are introducing in terms of this pollution and waste within the various areas within the Western Cape, and if so, what is the current target of them in terms of that pollution and waste? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Stoffel. Member Constable.
Chair, thank you very much, and thanks, colleagues, for the presentation. Chair, I don't have a lot of questions, just something that interests me. With regards to Program 3 on the compliance, on the first presentation, the compliance and enforcement targets. How do we get to those targets? How do we decide how many targets are we putting in there, or how many indicators are we putting in there? And how do we then deal? If I read your performance indicator 3.1.1.3, number of completed criminal investigations handed to the NPA for prosecution. Is there a set standard or a set number of targets, or is it investigations that is in process? How do we get to the number of targets? Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Member Constable. All right, Minister, over to you and your team.
HOD Gerber, will you guys answer?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for those questions. And I'll ask Johannes Fritz, Chief Financial Officer, to speak to the cost of employment in terms of the expenditure to date. That's on slide 5. Johannes, you can just speak to the question there by Honourable Member Stoffels. And then I'll ask Salim to speak to the, while Salim and Gottlieb's no longer here, so we'll speak to the pollution question. The targets not achieved, I'll speak to that after Johannes. Thank you.
Thank you, HOD, and good morning to the Chair and the committee members, Minister. Just on COE, so the observation made by the member, on the slide as presented, we're indicating that we're going to have an underspending of 106,000 on COE, and this we will reprioritize towards households. So the shortfall on the households are for employees that leave the employee of the department. So if they have any leave gratuities at that time of exit, that are being paid out to them. And that is what we are indicating in terms of the 106 that were mentioned. Just further on COE, so the total expenditure for the department, this is now if we exclude the expenditure or the transfer payment to Cape Nature. So for the first quarter, the department incurred 71 million in terms of total expenditure. Of that, 65 million was in respect of COE. So 91%, so just over 91%. Was the expenditure on COE from the position of the department. Does that address the question from the member? Thank you.
Thank you, Johannes. Then in terms of the targets, the non-financial targets for the quarter 1, some of those targets that were not achieved was in terms of being demand driven. So we were projecting a demand based on historic demand, but the demand was in fact not there. And that's why there was no specific, the number of complaints, for instance, was not the same as what we were projecting. The 2 targets that were not achieved, that were in our control, that wasn't demand driven, are both in terms of the EIAs, whether finalized within the legislated timeframes, as well as the non-apps. Those are the same teams working on both of those targets. And the one is a sector target in terms of the legislated timeframes, and we're very specifically focusing on achieving that sector target and those legislated timeframes. The non-app timeframe is only our department that have that. We still strive and provide those comments, even though those timeframes are not legislated. That was our determination of a reasonable timeframe within which to respond, and we do strive to meet that. But we were protecting the legislated timeframe achievement, but we are taking measures, to corrective measures, in order to achieve all the targets that we've set, and we're busy with that. In terms of the question on the targets that have been set in terms of pollution, chemical management, the pollution work, in terms of program 3 on environmental quality, there's a number of targets that are set out. There's the targets that have been set. Sorry, that's program 4. Program 3 is the compliance work, and program 4 is the environmental quality work. And in the environmental quality work, there's specific targets that we've set in terms of the water quality monitoring and related work. There's also the equality monitoring work, the monitoring stations that we have. There's the support work that we're doing with the municipalities, and there's ongoing work in that space. So it is based on our monitoring systems that we have in place and a partnership with other role players, whether it be municipalities, Department of Water and Sanitation, Department of Agriculture, but important question in terms of human rights, One Health approach. And of course, as those targets come up in the quarters, we will obviously be engaging with the standing committee on where are we now performing against those targets. Member Constable, in terms of the question on the how, which is I take it for Cape Nature and the department, in terms of how we set targets, that is based on our ongoing review in terms of the needs of the residents of the Western Cape, very specific mandate analysis and strategic prioritization, both as a country with the national role players. So there's sector planning that we do. That's all based on our best information on the emerging situational analysis and the pestle type analysis and the priority needs in terms of by when and which standard of service needs to be provided. And then it's through our own strategic planning as a province, but also as a department. And then in light of the 5-year strategic plan, there's the targets that's then set in terms of each year of delivery, with ongoing review in terms of, are we achieving against those targets, but also what does the changing circumstances also mean for the target setting in the year that follows, and what adjustments might be required in terms of how we're operating and what we're doing. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much. Colleagues, I don't see any other hands. We've got Member Stoffel has a follow-up. Member Stoffel.
Thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I forgot 2 questions from to Cape Nature. Can you allow me that?
Yes, of course.
Yes, thank you, Chairperson. Chair, I just in the presentation, they have indicated there's 250 EPWP programs, and of which I want to know, Chair, the breakup of that 450, the breakdown of it, and then also in terms of the 20 interns, where are they being deployed? Where's this interns? If they can give me that clarity, Chair.
Thank you. I don't see any other hands. That'll be the last question on these presentations. Hand over to you, HOD.
Thank you very much. The expanded public works, there's the work that's undertaken in terms of the department and in the sector. And then there's a specific expanded public works program that's being implemented by Cape Nature. And I'll ask the colleagues from Cape Nature to please answer Member Stoffel's question in terms of expanded public works program in Cape Nature. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Honourable Member Stoffels. In the meeting, we have our executive directors. Generally, we align to the national requirements on gender, youth, and disability, and we meet those targets for EPWP, and they are spread across the Western Cape. Operationally, as Cape Nature, we divide the Western Cape into the West Landscape, South, Central, and East landscapes, and we have the EPWP staff across those landscapes. But for a little more detail on that, I'm going to go to Mr. Shiraz Ismail, who manages that. We could also undertake to send chair and members a detailed distribution of gender, disability, and youth, and also placement as additional information. And similarly with the 20 graduate interns, I'm going to come to our general manager, Mr. Barnes, if he can add any more detail, but we can also follow up with the detail of the spread of those. On the 20 graduate interns, we do generally take them from final year students, primarily from CPUT, Cape Provincial University of Technology, in nature conservation, and we host them at our various reserves. But Mr. Barnes, I'll allow you to add to that as well. Mr. Ismail, over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, CEO, and good morning, members. We will gladly put a report together that we can submit to the committee. As per CEO's clarity provided around the towns these communities, these members come from, or the EPWP staff members, together with a breakdown of women, youth, and people with disabilities. So we'll put a report together and submit that to the committee. Thank you, Chair.
Through you, Chair, Mr. Barnes, you know, add a little bit detail on the interns, the graduate interns. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair, through you and through Dr. Naidu. Yes, Honourable Stoffel, I think the CEO has covered it. But just to say that our 20 interns that we do have is also spread across landscapes, across directorates, wherever the expertise or services are required, and where we can obviously develop these, provide them with certain training and development to obviously grow. We do have agreements with the likes of CPUT. I can't remember, there's another institution, but we also place adverts towards the end of the semesters, so to say, calling on any other students to apply for whatever vacancies we may have in the entity at the time. I trust that helps. Thank you.
Chairperson, if I may add to that response from Cape Nature.
Thank you very much.
Chairperson, just to brief, if I may
yes,
add,
no,
Chairperson.
Continue.
Apologies, I thought you said I can go ahead. Just in terms of the interns, Cape Nature and the department both participate in the Career Expo type activities in the province to also promote and try and attract entrants, whether it's through you know, the different opportunities that exist. One of those being the intern type opportunities. So we do make use of those platforms to raise awareness and try and attract interest to both Cape Nature and the department. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I do see one other hand from Member Constable. Colleagues, that will be the last question if there are no more. So please raise your hand now if you hold your peace on this one. All right, Member Constable.
Chair, thank you very much. Chair, now, on the question of Member Stoffel with regards to the interns, the answer was that the interns is spread across the departments. Can we also have that breakdown in writing if possible? Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much. That is a request to the department HOD. Is that something that you'd be able to assist with?
Will do. Thank you, Chair.
See Mr. Naidu's raised his hand. Was that just thumbs up, Mr. Naidu?
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just to say that we don't spread our interns across the departments. They all are within Cape Nature, but in our different operational units in the different parts of the province on that. So all are within Cape Nature, but in our different operational units. Thanks. But we will add that to the report we'll be doing. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Naidu and HOD and the team. The officials from those two departments, Cape Nature and Environment, are now welcome to take their leave from the meeting. And we will then move on to the next presentation, which will be from the Department of Local Government on the first quarterly performance and expenditure report for April to June. Minister, I'm going to hand over to you and your team to introduce this item and take us through the presentation.
Chair, thank you. We're under pressure, so I think the team can take us through. I will add if it's necessary. Thank you.
Want to check, is the HOD present or somebody standing in?
Chair, I see the CFO is on. I think, Bhavana, will you be able to take us through?
Yeah, I can take you through the financial aspect. Shall we do that while we're waiting?
Please,
I'll tell you what we'll do, Minister, is we'll just take 5 minutes and we'll reconvene at 11. We'll give you an opportunity just to sort that out. Colleagues can take a quick body break for 5 minutes, and at 11 o'clock we will reconvene the meeting.
Yeah, I can do the presentation.
Okay, great. We'll reconvene at 11 o'clock. Thanks.
Okay. Pick one.
When I can take us.
Right, colleagues, it's 11 o'clock. We're going to reconvene. I do note that a number of officials were logging on at 11 o'clock. In terms of our program, this presentation was scheduled to start at 11 o'clock. So we were just a little bit ahead of schedule. And it's good to have everybody on. So without further ado, I think we can hand over then to HOD Paulser, who will then introduce the item and take us through the presentation.
Good morning, Chairperson and members. So this is just a report on the first quarter performance of the department. It includes both the APP deliverables as well as the financial performance. Perhaps just to note, Chairperson and committee members, that the performance, the national budget process has influenced the performance of the department. In turn, it has actually also influenced the performance, I think, particularly the budget of the entire province. Only recently, the DORA has been gazetted, and based on that, the transfers to municipalities has been gazetted in the province. So it has had influence on the performance, particularly from a financial perspective. However, in relation to the APP deliverables for the first quarter, out of the 17 indicators, we've managed to fully achieve 15, and obviously 2 were partially achieved, and that relates to the impact and actually the CWP. And when the Director of Policy and Strategy presents, we can most probably give the reasons why. So, Chairperson, I believe that given the fact that the challenges in relation to the national budget has now been resolved, and the department can actually spend, the department was required to spend a certain percentage of the prior year's budget. We will now be able to spend the budget accordingly. With those introductory remarks, Chairperson, thank you very much. I'll ask Albert perhaps to proceed with the quarterly performance and then the CFO, Chairperson. Thank you.
Good morning, Minister and honorable members. I've put the presentation. I'm not sure if it's showing.
Yes, it's showing. We can see it.
Okay.
Just perhaps on slideshow, Albert?
Yes.
Slideshow, yes, I'll do. Okay. On my side, it shows, okay. I'm actually on two two screens. Good morning. Okay, is it clear now?
Yeah.
Is it okay? Thank you very much. Good morning. The presentation, as HOD has already indicated, basically it's looking at the first quarter. I'm just gonna jump this presentation outline. It's looking at the first quarter of the financial year, just to indicate, if anything you've forgotten, this slide just presents the high level sort of a summary of progress relating to the quarter. First of all, for the year, we've got about 65 indicators as the department that we must report on. And 16 of those are sector performance indicators. So basically sector performance indicators are those which are set at national. And as the department, it's either we're playing an oversight role on those in different ways. For the first quarter, as HOD has indicated, we've got 17 indicators that were due for reporting. And out of those 17, we've fully achieved 15 of those. And 2 have been partially achieved. As HOD has indicated, it relates basically to 2 indicators, which you will see in the following slides. This next slide indicates under administration, that the indicators that we've achieved, basically they relate to the submission of performance reporting and also the issues of financial reports which have been submitted. The next slide is under municipal governance. Under municipal governance, we had in the first quarter under this indicator, there were actually nothing that was planned. However, as programs begin to do some of their implementation, because some of these, for instance, is the comments. So comments came that needed to be submitted, and then also the request for the development review of amendment of the bylaws. It's the assistance that we provide to municipalities, the development and review and amendment of the systems of delegation. So these are basically requests that come through. Now, Chair, we are going to have targets like this, where we target for a year. However, you know, in the process, there is a request that comes through, and then we end up reporting under those, even if we didn't set a target for them. The next indicator talks to the assessment of senior management appointments. The target for that is 25, which is basically a target for the year. To date, there's about 15 appointments which were assessed. Those are basically as listed there: George, municipality, municipal manager, Bito, chief financial officer, Bito again, the director for economic development and planning, Oudtshoorn municipality, the city of Cape Town, George again, Laingsburg municipality, Oudtshoorn municipality, Overberg district municipality, Oudtshoorn municipality. Now, as you can see, they're basically the assessments. It's either a municipal manager or a chief financial officer or somebody at a director level. So there's about 15 of those. The next slide speak to number of assessments on MPECs. It's basically the assessments that we do on the municipal public accounts committees. This is where the first partial achievement is, Chair. We've planned to assess about 2 for the year. For that particular quarter, which is Stellenbosch municipality, it did take place. So we've done that assessment. And Theewaterskloof was also scheduled for that. However, it was moved to the second quarter. So it does not necessarily mean that we have not been able to achieve, we will not be achieving that. It is still something that is planned. The code of conduct cases, there's about 9 code of conduct cases which are assessed, basically relate to Knysna municipality. As I've indicated, some of those are basically based on requests on demand from municipalities. Number of legal support initiatives is basically trainings that we've done or workshops that we've done around MPEC awareness training, the code of conduct for councillors, basically that we've done in the appointment regulations for senior management, for managers and ethics training. So that's basically the support which we've provided to municipalities. Under specialized support, it's basically investigations that are being done. It's basically the reports that have been done relating to the assessment and investigations of allegations of maladministration and fraud. So basically there's 2, but it's 1 report, basically for Central Karoo District Municipality and Beaufort West. The next indicator speaks to number of actions to improve and promote citizen interface and empowerment. That's basically under our public participation, where we've done ward committee training for a number of municipalities, which include sort of report writing and minute taking, which we've done for Pito. And then for Overstrand, it's basically the refresher training for Overstrand and Prince Albert. This next indicator speaks to a number of municipalities supported to maintain functional ward committee training. So this one is basically a national indicator. However, it's linked to the indicator above. So those municipalities is basically Pito, Overstrand, and Prince Albert. So between those two, it's basically linked to that. The next indicator, which HOD has also indicated as being partially achieved, if you'll see that the target for the quarter is about 15,500 to date. There's about under the quarter 13,000 which were achieved. Now, the director responsible for that particular program, Chair, is also available on this platform, but basically, this is a national indicator. We, where as the province, we play an oversight role. Basically, the appointments of the participants is done by national, the approval is done at a national level. So we do that oversight role. However, during that period, there has been, issues relating to the numbers and the confirmation of the numbers. And of course, you'll recall earlier, Chair, there was an issue of whether those who were above 55 would be taken out, and then whether we're looking at 60. But as I've indicated, the relevant manager will explain. This one relates to municipal performance monitoring, reporting and evaluation, where, we have a report on municipalities, on the status of municipalities. We've achieved all of these particular indicators, and then this also touched to ICT support, as I've indicated. So these three indicators, 2.4.3, 2.4.4, 2.4.5, they basically talk to ICT support that we do to municipalities. It's basically ICT policy framework where we've developed as a department, where we've assisted with the review of ICT policies of various municipalities, as I've indicated there, the Beaufort West Municipality, Mossel Bay, and Swellendam. Where we've got various engagement, which we've had with various sectors, basically looking at, how can we innovate around ICT, where we've worked with various, key players. The last indicator there is about number of municipalities monitored on the implementation of the indigent policies. So it's basically where we do the assessment reports for those particular municipalities in terms of their compliance with the indigent policies. So we've done for Beaufort West, Oudtshoorn, Laingsburg, Prince Albert, George, and Drakenstein municipalities. The next indicator talks to, this is basically disaster management and fire and rescue services, where we've had various engagements under facilitation and enhanced capacity building partnerships in disaster management, where we've had the heads of center forum engagements, the Western Cape Provincial Disaster Management Advisory Forums. These are basically some of the statutory forums, Chair, that we have. Under indicator 3.1, support organs of state to ensure disaster readiness and response, where we've had the winter readiness plan, which was collated and submitted to the National Disaster Management Center and shared with all the stakeholders. This indicator, SPI 13, number of municipalities supported to maintain functional disaster management centers. This is a national indicator where we get some monitoring and evaluation reports that we do for our 5 districts and the metro. So it relates to that. The last one, it relates to integrated development planning, where this year the focus is around evidence-based ID support plans across the different districts, where we have achieved, where we say we've got 5 evidence-based ADB support plans, which have been developed basically per district. And the last one speaks to skills audit that we conduct to improve integrated development planning. Under that, we've done the IDP training needs, which we've obtained from the 5 districts in the province. And therefore, that will inform us in terms of going further and doing the training. That's about it when it comes to performance information, Chair. The next slide basically will speak to the expenditure report. Bhavna, you'll indicate to me if you want me to move that slide because I've shared it from my side.
Yes, thanks, Albert. I appreciate that. Good morning, Chair, colleagues, members. If we go to the first slide on an expenditure, the department holistically is sitting at 13.5% spend. Administration sitting at 21. Local governance, which is program 2, is just under 20. Development planning, program 3, which is at 8.3%. The overspending that we're currently showing in program 2 is related to rollover requests that have already been submitted to the Provincial Treasury, and it's predominantly related to the video wall at the Disaster Management Centre. That's already now started to be fitted and the payments have started to be processed. The next slide is just a graphical representation of the slide before. So if we can go into the detail on the next slide, that's program 1. It gives you the breakdown of corporate services being at 21% spend. The next slide is program 2, and it's broken down into the directorates. So municipal administration, which is governance and specialized support, sitting at 18.7, public participation at 23, capacity development is sitting at 19.5, but that's also where a lot of the programs and the project implementation will start now. Municipal performance monitoring is at 8%, and that is where all of our grant funding, or most of our grant funding, has actually been based within the budget. Service delivery integration is at 17%, and the CDW program at 25%. That brings us to just under 20. Program 3, municipal infrastructure is at 3.7, disaster management at 7.9, and IDP at 17.4. Most of what looks like underspending, but it's actually smaller percentages of the expenditure, is related to transfers that would need to go through on the municipal infrastructure side, which will start to happen now in the next 3 months. And on the disaster management side, it's predominantly related to a combination of the aerial firefighting, which will happen in the fire season, as well as some transfers that need to go through to the municipalities in terms of the fire capacity grant. Program 4, we're sitting at 8.3% spend. The economic classifications, which is on the next slide, Albert, thank you. COE sitting at 22, goods and services at 5, and then the big one after that is machinery and equipment, which is at 20, and then financial transactions and assets, it's at 9.7. And then the next slide is just a graphical representation of the expenditure on the economic classifications. Thank you, Chair.
Thanks very much. Colleagues, any questions? Please raise your hands. Members? We have Member Noko Masipa, Member Masipa, and then that will be followed by Member Stoffel. Member Masipa?
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the presentation, colleagues. Chair, my question is just really a straightforward one. With regards to indigent rollout review of the municipalities, do you have a baseline in terms of how you are really monitoring the indigent
grant applications in municipalities. And I'm asking this because, you know, it looks like the uptake of this indigent sometimes is a bit problematic. Either it's a problematic from a knowledge point of view, from the old people, or processes point of view. I just want to hear what the assessment of that kind of work is being done. Thanks, Chair.
Thanks. I recognise Member Stoffel.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. Am I still audible, Chair?
Yes, you are.
Thank you very much, Chair. Chair, let me appreciate the presentation from the MEC and the HOD and its team. And also appreciate the good work so far. However, Chair, as indicated, in terms of the national budget, they have an influence on the provincial performance. We take note of it. And out of the 17 indicators, 15 has been achieved. There's still 2 that is not really achieved. I would like the department to brief us more in detail about it. The other 2. And then also, when it comes to municipal governance, development and review, I want to know what led to the review. Can there be maybe a more explanation in terms of that municipalities? And then also, in terms of the assessment, of these directors and municipal managers and others is financial officers, what led to that assessment? Can then the department also expand on that? And then also, in terms of the 9 cases or the 9 code of conduct cases in Knysna municipalities, how many of that cases is towards its finalization? How many of that cases is still in the beginning phase? Or can we have a more broad status about that cases within Knysna, that 9 cases? And then also the training of the ward committees. Except that municipalities that has been indicated there, is there also, what about the other municipalities whereas there also emphasis on the training on them, or is that on request, or is from that specific municipalities that has been indicated there? I will wait for a second round, Chair.
Thank you, Member Stoffel. Yes, heard you. Thank you, Member Stoffel. Fantastic. Yeah. All right. If we can then have responses.
Chairperson, thank you. I'm going to ask Sandra just maybe to comment on the indigent policy, the assessment of it. And I suggest Sandra also bring in the work that has been done around the dignity basket. I think that's important. The assessments on the directors, I can also ask Sandra and Kamal. We can also indicate the further work that we've done in terms of the dispute that the provincial minister has now laid against, not against, but sort of lots of dispute with the national minister. And also perhaps, Kamal, the 9 cases of Knysna, particularly those that were implicated in the court case. And perhaps between Craig and Azuka, just on the training of the ward committees, Chairperson. Thank you. I will give additional response if necessary. Thanks.
Good morning, Chair and members. In terms of the indigents, we normally use the national framework as a guideline against which we do the assessments of the indigent policies in municipalities. We have, however, as HOD has pointed out, done additional research in 2018 already to establish a baseline with regard to the indigents and the tariff analysis across water, the basic services, water, electricity, and refuse, just to determine whether the municipalities are using a standardized approach. Obviously, there isn't one at the moment. We can also just say that this issue is receiving quite a lot of attention currently from a national perspective. So national at the moment is dealing with the development of a digitalized indigent reporting framework. And we just had a meeting with them yesterday in this regard. So it is about making sure that there's a standard approach. It's about addressing challenges. And it's also about getting a clearer understanding of what is being reported to national versus what's being reported to province, and ensuring that there is that similarity with regard to those reports. HOD, I'm just going to hand to Kamal with regard to the other two questions.
Kamal?
Thank you, Chair. Chair, I'm just going to deal with the question pertaining to the review. If my understanding is correct, the review of bylaws, if that's the intended question or inquiry, is obviously there's always going to be a review of a bylaw, obviously to update the bylaw. So that's where we come in based on a request by a municipality to assist the municipality with the review. So we've got specialized legal expertise in-house that will have a look at the bylaw and then obviously engage with the relevant functionaries in the municipality and then assist in the drafting of that bylaw or the amendment of the bylaw. Pertaining to the question pertaining to appointments, the question was what has led to the assessment. Obviously, I think what was meant is maybe what was the outcome of the assessment. But to answer the what has led to the assessment, in terms of the legislation, municipalities are supposed to be reporting on the appointments of senior managers to the MEC. And then based on the assessment conducted, the department will make recommendations to the MEC as to whether the appointment or the respective appointment is within the ambit of the legislation. Just to indicate to the honourable member's question, in the case of there's 15 assessments that we conducted for Q1. There were 3 appointments that we obviously had an issue with, and that was 2 that was in Bito municipality. The one was the Chief Financial Officer, and the other one was Director Economic Development and Planning. In that instance, the 2 candidates that were appointed did not meet the minimum requirements. In the case of Overstrand municipality, we also had an issue with the original appointment of the CFO, and the municipality did not follow the recruitment and selection process as prescribed in terms of legislation. Pertaining to the question of the 9 cases that has been reported under the Code of Conduct cases assessed here in NISNA, I think maybe what we need to just contextualize, and I think the question that was posed was at what phase are those cases? I think let me just contextualize how those cases came about. There was a committee that was established by the MEC in terms of the Code of Conduct, and that was to ascertain whether there were any breaches of the Code of Conduct by 11 councillors. And the outcome of that was with recommendations and findings by the committee itself. And we dealt with 9 out of the 11 cases in that respect. The matters are at the moment, the one matter is at the moment before the court. So I'm not at liberty to go into the merits of the conduct because it is list pendants as is as well. Thank you, Chair.
Craig and Zuko. Last question, Chairperson, the training of the ward committees.
No, thanks. Thanks, Chair. Craig Mitchell this side. I will answer the question. The honourable member is correct. The municipalities that we supported, that was on request. I'm referring to Prince Albert, Bito, and what's the other municipality?
and Overstrand. But the request is not only confined to, or the support is not only confined to the requests we receive from municipalities. On a quarterly basis, we also monitor the functionality of ward committees through the reports that the municipalities submit to the department. And when we identify challenges, and then we avail our service to municipalities to train those ward committees that's struggling with their functionality. And also ward committees that have filled a lot of vacancies. Obviously, they haven't been trained before, so we combine that refresher training also as induction training for those ward committee members that fill the vacancies. Now, the 3 municipalities that we assisted thus far was, like I indicated, Bito, Overstrand, and Prince Albert. On the 30th of August, we went back to Prince Albert because the first training session that we had for Prince Albert was for the Ward Lughamka. And on the 30th of August, we went back to Prince Albert because they also requested that we also expose their ward committees to the refresher training for Klaarstrom and for the neighboring areas in Prince Albert. And then this past Saturday, we also went to Saldanha Bay and supported Saldanha Bay and also held refresher training for their ward committees. The ward committee training, I must indicate, is ongoing. As we approach the end of the term, which will now obviously run until the end of November, hopefully next year, there has been a significant demand for us to come roll out refresher training. But in particular, especially those ward committee members that are now new, that fill vacancies. So like I indicated, the training is ongoing and it's also on request from municipalities. Thanks.
Thanks, Craig. Chairperson, just as in contribution, so just the movement of the number of assessments on senior management and municipal managers. I think a big contributing factor is actually the salary levels. And if one analyzes this, you would see that many municipalities have actually gone through 1 or 2 or 3 rounds of the recruitment and selection process. So we are of the view that the salary levels of senior managers and MMs need to be adjusted. The national department has undertaken to do that work. But we see, given the current levels of salary, that you find difficult candidates to apply for these positions. And that's also one of the major contributing factors, the numbers in terms of the assessments that we are doing. Thanks.
Thank you very much, HOD and your team. Colleagues, are there any other questions, clarity or further questions on the presentation? Member Stoffel.
Thank you. Thank you, Chairperson. Chairperson, thank you very much from the response from the department. Although although a person would really like to know in terms of the assessment of the directors individually, why the assessment on them. But it's fine. I will take it for now. In terms of the winter readiness plan, I want to check, Chair, with the department. Is this plan being shared with the municipalities? And being shared with the municipalities, what is the real response from the municipalities when it comes to that plan, or when it comes to the compliance of that plan? Because we are faced really with serious problems during the winter, and you will find that municipalities is distancing them from that. If the plan is there, they will tell you that there's nothing they will do. The province have to assist, and national have to assist. So I'm just wondering if they are saying that, and then I'm just want to know, is this plan being shared with them? Does they know what to do, or what is their role within this plan? Yeah. And then coming to the expenditure reports, I've noted that development and planning is 5.8. And then also my worry is in terms of the traditional, that is on 8.3. Currently in the province, we're supposed to have a traditional desk. And currently that desk is, I don't know whether that desk is functional or not functional, because the department might say now, no, that desk is more concentrated on art and culture, but it's also from part of local government. Is there maybe a report on that department? And if I have indicated or refer it wrongly, maybe the CFO can then assist. And then also in public participation, if not there, we are on 22%, 22.5, and then capacity development, we are on 19.5. Now, I don't know whether this capacity development, does it include the capacity within the municipalities? Because currently we are sitting with the capacity problem within these various municipalities. And if you look into the percentage on that, it's a very small percentage on capacity building then in the municipalities. So I want the CFO maybe to expand for us on that one. And then also on the disaster management, when it comes to 7.8, yes, it's based on fire fighting and all that. But within these smaller municipalities, especially in this district, we are sitting really with fire problems, and not fire problems within the nature, but fire problems with walkies that is been destroyed, informal settlement that is destroyed by the fire, like yesterday and Saturday. And then you sit with a district that is 200 km from you, almost 200 km from you. And I don't see really there is a real interest, or I might put it wrong, please. I might put it wrong. The interest in that within our municipalities is very slim, because the district will come after 2 hours, 3 hours. When that informal settlement, there's nothing left about it. And then also the municipality, we must appreciate the local municipalities in assisting. But the thing is that all facilities is going to the district, while municipalities is suffering, taking the last cent to do that, and then the district is also billing them. It's not the first time I have registered this, and I want the department to come in there and give us more and broad explanation to say, how are we going to deal with this situation? Because each and every day there is informal settlements that is being affected by these fires, and there is families end up without roof for their children. And yes, there is this thing that is saying the national department is also assisting in terms of these informal settlements, but we want immediate remedies. It's enough that they say they are working with the social department, and the social department is giving course parking, and it ends there from the district. They are not, I don't know whether they have reported the incident to national, so that national can assist them with the informal structure for that specific family. We don't know, but everything just ends after the course parking. And I think that we cannot allow such situations. So maybe the disaster management can maybe expand on that and give us more explanation around how to deal with this situation. And then the last one, Chair, is the municipal infrastructure. It's I'm not sure whether it's 3.7 or 8.7. Currently, Chairperson, Chairperson,
Yes, we're all still here.
Oh, currently, Chairperson, in terms of municipal infrastructure, we really got a problem with it. We are sitting now, as we sit now here in this municipality. And please, the department must bear with me. We are sitting with a municipality that is under the financial recovery plan. Currently, as we speak, the Shuris is all over the streets in Canaland, especially in Krugersdorp. I was yesterday there, and it's just the pity I have missed the MEC of Finance to show her what is happening there. It's a disaster. And the municipality is indicating that they don't have really financial finances to recover that damage that is there. So now, as we speak, the communities is up and running because that is a health risk. It's as you all know, Shuris is not a nice thing amongst human beings. So I want to know, whilst I'm noticing the small percentage spent in municipal infrastructure, does that refers to municipalities, or that maybe the department can give more info there? Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much, Member Stoffel. We have Member Constable and Member Masipa. I just want to just ask, if possible, colleagues, we have 20 minutes left. We still want to get to the answers, and we need to conclude our resolutions by 12. So if we can just try and keep, if possible, the questions brief, so that we can get quality answers as well. Member Constable?
No, Chair, thank you very much. I think Member Stoffel covered a lot of my questions, especially those with regards to municipal infrastructure. But this, just on the municipal infrastructure, I just want to check whether this includes the municipal infrastructure grant, the national grant, and are we happy that municipalities will spend, and what is the process of monitoring and evaluation with regards to the spending on that? My second question is, I note that this is only a report with regards to targets and outputs, but on the disaster management and fire rescue services, the report mentioned that the following monitoring and evaluation was submitted. Is there a report on this monitoring and evaluation, Chair, and can that report be shared with us? My last one was also covered by Member Stoffel with regards to the traditional and institutional administration. I think this one we still need to have a lot of communication and maybe conversation with regards to this. Thank you, Chair.
Member Masipa?
Chair, mine is not going to really be long, but it's partly a comment, but also, a response to some of the comments that have been made by my colleagues. And really, thank you for stimulating conversation, Honorable Stoffel. But I think it also, talks to the importance of the monetary and evaluation bill that we have just amended, that the issues that you are raising are critical for us, to make sure that maybe we consider even conducting an oversight at Canaland, as you have raised, sewer spillage in the street, because definitely we cannot afford in this province to have a municipality with sewer spilling on the street. So really, I think it was also a very important move by the Department of Local Government to introduce the monetary and evaluation and amend it to ensure that the government step in quickly in order to avoid such situation happening at local municipality level. Thanks, Chair. It's a comment really, but it's a comment in response to Honorable Stoffel's issues of Canaland. Thank you.
Thank you. That concludes the questions from members. If we can then have responses from the department.
Honourable Chairperson, thanks for the questions. If I can perhaps just initially respond to Honourable Stoffel's question around the assessments. What I would suggest, Chairperson, that we perhaps at your convenience schedule a separate session in relation to the assessments that the department is doing. Fundamentally in terms of law and what the role is of the department and what the role is of the provincial minister in relation to that and what subsequent processes follow. So that I think the process is understood, and then we can actually fill in with additional details around that. But at your convenience, we can most probably deal with that. Colin, just on the fire and the winter readiness capacity, Sandra and the CFO, if you would like to come in. And then I think, Colin, you must also maybe indicate all the work that we're doing in terms of capacity building, in terms of fire, but also the explicit difference between felt fires and structural fires and who's responsible for those. And then perhaps Sandra and Maris, just on the municipal infrastructure grant, Honourable Member Constable, this does not include the national funding. It's not the MIG, although we assist and support on the MIG funding and monitor those. And then just on the traditional affairs, I'll ask Albert. The National Minister has obtained a court order. We actually got additional 2 years to finalize the Khoisan legislation based on the absence of public participation and what the influence is on the new developments in relation to the traditional leaders legislation. Chairperson, just in that, and I will perhaps, if necessary, just add on. Thanks. Colin?
Thank you, HOD. Good morning, Chairperson and members, and good morning, Minister. So yes, I think just in terms of the winter plan, and we're now ready with in the process of our summer plan. So we bring everybody along. The plan doesn't only get shared with the municipalities, we actually get them involved right from the beginning. So we do a risk assessment of what the potential risk is going to be through the winter season. Obviously, we know a lot of it, but it changes over periods. So if there's informal settlements that have increased, if there are dam issues, river issues, we include that in our plan. And then everybody gets brought along. In fact, all stakeholders get brought along. The plan then gets developed in cooperation with the provincial departments, with the municipalities, and then also with people like the weather services, and then other experts like universities, Council for Geoscience. And then we put that plan together, and then that plan does get shared, and that's obviously what we use when incidents take place. As far as the capacity is concerned, we know that there's a very serious issue as far as wildfires and other fires are concerned. We haven't done the stats for this year yet, but the last financial year we had 12,000 fires in the province. But over the last 10 years, we have built capacity, as the HOD has mentioned. We have procured 120 firefighting vehicles, and every single municipality in the province has benefited from this. In certain areas, we've provided more vehicles depending on the risk. We also have identified a major risk in the informal settlements, and we started a project around 13 years ago where we installed smoke detectors into shacks in informal settlements. We are now around 20,000 smoke detectors that have been placed in informal settlements across the province, and that project continues with funding every year. We realize also that awareness is a very big part of our disaster prevention, and we carry out awareness programs specifically on floods and fires. We have now reached pretty much all the rural schools. There's very a few exceptions that we've been able to carry out very targeted awareness programs. And then we work with the South African Weather Services on what we call an impact-based warning. So, Chair, you would hear quite often in the media them talking about a level 4 or a level 6 or a level 2 weather warning. What we do is when we receive these warnings, we react very quickly. So as the warning comes through, we will identify the area that's going to be affected, and then we will look at what necessarily needs to be done. We fortunately haven't been able to have to do it this year, but in the past, we've even closed schools to ensure that that people are not at risk. As far as emergency housing is concerned, that does sit with the National Department of Human Settlements, but they are part of our operational team. So we bring them in also very, very early. If an incident, we realize that an incident might affect people in terms of housing, etc., they get brought in very early to be able to do early assessments and to assist in providing emergency housing where required. We also have deployed, because we know that there's a shortage of staff and that there are staff challenges at district disaster centers. We've been running a program now for around 6 years where we actually provide interns that have been studying disaster management into the districts, where we just provide with additional personnel. And then we also have developed in the last 2 years a learning program. And this is not just for districts, this is for municipalities across the board, where we've identified 14 different areas of skills that people must have. And we have appointed a very well regarded professor in disaster management who's been running these courses for us so that we can build capacity there. As far as the firefighting is concerned, the wildfires and the structural fires are separated, where districts are responsible for wildfire response and local municipalities are responsible for structural response, structural fires. So we provide generally most of the emergency vehicles that we procure to the local municipalities. We also provide to the districts. However, we also provide every year, and it's in an item in our budget, support whereby we contract aircraft, helicopters and fixed wing aircraft, as well as specialized ground teams to be able to deal with the wildfire problem. And we are seeing more and more encroachment into the wildfire environment by informal settlements. So obviously that's a challenge, and that's something that we focus on quite significantly. So, and then just as far as the monitoring and the reports are concerned, we would be quite happy to share them. Thank you, Chair. I hope I've covered everything.
Sandra, capacity holding.
Thank you, Chair. In terms of this specific item, capacity development, this item does not refer specifically to capacity challenges within municipalities. Obviously, because of our monitoring and evaluation, we're very aware of the capacity challenges that do arise there. But every municipality is also responsible for a workplace skills plan and ensuring that they've got relevant budgets to ensure that their org structures are aligned to their service delivery. Other than that, we've obviously in one of the other elements, we've got grant funding, which we use to as internships funding for municipalities to try and assist them there. And in terms of this specific item, we deal there with 2 projects specifically, the training of municipal officials, as well as we're looking at alternative service delivery models such as the shared services model. We're busy developing a provincial framework with regard to that. Chair, and then I'll ask Marius just to come in with regard to the last question.
Thanks. We just have the last question. We can just.
Marius, on the infrastructure.
Yes, yeah. Thank you, Chair and members. I will then talk to the question that we had around Calitzdorp. Yes. We are well aware about the sewage spillages in Calitzdorp. We had a team there on our engineers that investigated the problem. We came up with a plan, and we will obviously assist the municipality in looking for the necessary funding to implement that. That could be a reprioritizing of the municipal infrastructure grant, and obviously allocation from other grants like our own water resilience grant, WSIC, from water affairs. In that regard, we have allocated in 24-25 for the refurbishment and upgrading of the Calitzdorp wastewater treatment work, an amount of 4 million. The water quality has been quite a concern in the Calitzdorp area for quite some time. We've also asked our geohydrologists to look at future solutions to diversify the water source, and we're looking at a repair of a deep borehole in Calitzdorp and future supply from the Klein Karoo water supply scheme that is augmented by the Blossoms deep borehole project in Oudtshoorn. And then currently in this year, 25-26, we give Kannaland an amount of 1.4 million. This is for update of the water service development plan, and that will open the door for them to apply for WSIC funding from water affairs, and that can be prioritized then to solve the problems in Calitzdorp, but also water supply problems in Ladysmith. Then the question on monitoring and evaluation of the MIC program, as well as our own grants that we're providing to municipalities. We are doing that for MIC is on a monthly basis, where we meet with the municipalities, we go through progress. We also make sure that they comply with the specific target dates of 40% expenditure by December, and then from there are very strict monitoring in terms of keeping them on track to reach 100% expenditure by the end of June. Regular reports are submitted, and on a monthly basis we also report to COCTA. Then in terms of concern about the low expenditure on our grants, as indicated by HOD, a large portion of my budget is actually transfers to municipalities on the water resilience grant and the energy resilience grant. The late approval of the national budget also had a direct impact on the time by which we could have gazetted it, and delayed the transfer of those funds for another 2 months. It's all earmarked for a transfer now in September, and then just in time to assist municipalities with their priority areas. I think that was all.
That's it, Marius. Thank you very much. Chairperson, just perhaps the last on the Khoisan. Albert, if you wish.
Thanks. Can I just ask if you can just try and be as brief as possible, because we're almost at 12. Thanks.
Okay.
Yes, thank you, Chair. I'll be very brief. I think at some point, as the honourable member has indicated, we may need an engagement on this. As it is, currently, as HOD has indicated, the Act was declared invalid, and the order of invalidity then was suspended for a period of 24 months, which ended May this year. However, there has been an extension of that until 2027. And as it is, the Act will have to go to Cabinet, and once it has gone to Cabinet, will go to Parliament, and then the public participation process will ensue, just to make sure that the Act is passed in the correct manner. So that's it at the moment. In terms of the expenditure, basically, that is for personnel. As it is, I am running with the project. However, I'm not paid from that particular budget. So those are the issues that lead to under expenditures.
Thank you very much. Thank you so much, HOD. All right. Thank you so much to all of the officials who have joined us today, and for the detailed answers to the questions and for the presentations. You are now excused from the meeting, and we will proceed with our resolutions. So you are more than welcome to log off. And Minister as well, thank you.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you to the team.
All right. Colleagues, if we can then just proceed to resolutions. There were a couple of things that came up during the meeting. There was a recommendation for a follow-up presentation from the HOD in terms of one of the queries that came through, as well as a request for more detailed information from Member Constable that has also been captured. Is there anything else, colleagues, that anybody would like to propose as an additional resolution coming out of the meeting? No, I don't see. I see Member Marais, yes. And Member Constable.
Thank you very
Member
much,
Marais,
Mr.
yeah.
Chair. Thank you so much, Chairperson. Mr. Chair, I just want to alert the committee that there was an admission on the part of the official and the department that in terms of PPPs, that we do not have enough of the private sector involvement in that space. In terms of when it comes to waste management and contributing or being part of that, what is exactly the reasons for their non-participation in this particular space is something perhaps that we need to unpack. Is it the cost of applying for a license? Or is there some other factors at play in terms of getting more private sector to participate in the waste management? We cannot just leave it to municipalities to do. And then lastly, I think that we should also look at the source of all our, in terms of the waste that comes from retailers. Has government explored certain mechanisms to lessen the burden that municipalities are sitting in terms of waste? That refers specifically to packaging of things, the packaging being used. Are we going to eventually find certain retailers that are producing excessive amounts of waste in terms of the way they're packaging their things? Why must municipalities be fined? Perhaps it's something that we need to explore, looking at the source where everything actually starts when it comes to waste. Yeah, that's all I wanted to submit. Thank you.
Thanks for those inputs, Member Marais. Member Constable, do you have a proposal for a resolution?
Chair, if possible, the one is maybe in local inspection. The administration mentioned about the 100% compliance of the Karweiderskraal landfill site. So maybe it's something that we as a committee can look into and maybe go and do a visit on that specific site, just to check what is happening and how we can assist other municipalities with regards to this. There was another resolution. Oh, the one with regards to the engagement on the traditional bill. I think that is a crucial one that we need to engage on. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you very much. Member Masipa, the final proposal for resolution.
Sorry, Chair, I think the issue obviously that was raised by Honorable Vessel quite worrying with regards to the inability of the municipality to do the BFI. So I think that's one issue. Secondly, obviously, you know, the waste management will, the recommendation from not the committee, the government department is that obviously BFI will be really quite attractive. So maybe what we need to look at is how would maybe, is there a possibility that national government can be invited to maybe to engage them on how they can really be of support from a financial point of view in terms of this, because I mean we know that at the provincial level there is nowhere we can really get any support from a finance point of view. I don't know if we can invite them or we can really write a letter to request to indicate what's their level of support for the work from a financial point of view. Can they really support the department in that regard? This is a thinking, but I don't know. You might make a ruling, Chair, but I'm happy to really go with your ruling. But I think we definitely need to find a way to get around getting money to support this municipality to deal with this waste management, because it is definitely a problem.
Thank you very much, Member Masipa. I've got Member Van Wyk next. I'm just going to ask Member Masipa if you could just briefly chair the meeting for the next 5 minutes. After this, we just have to go through the minutes of the 19th of August. I should be back by then, but if you can just chair the next brief section, Member van Wyk.
Happy Chair.
Yes, thanks, Chair. I think I'm just trying to follow on what Member Musipe is saying, and I gather that's in relation to the BFI that you are referring to there. The BFI, the budget facility for infrastructure, is a minimum amount of R1 billion that is allocated in terms of that specific grant. So, and there are very stiff hurdles that need to be or that are applied in terms of a municipality's financial history, its governance, its management, all of those aspects. So, what I suspect has been indicated here from the minister from the department is that the provincial government is trying to secure a BFI, much as the Department of Education, the WCED, has secured a BFI, and then deploy that funding into projects around the province. So, that was what my interpretation of what is taking place, and they want to make use of a possible application there to try and solve the problems that have been mentioned. As we recall, they referred to a 3.1 billion rand backlog across the province. So I imagine what we probably just need to do is to monitor that process on a BFI application. So I'm not quite sure what we would then do in terms of a resolution or recommendation at this stage, because I think the matter is already being handled by the department. It's probably something worth the committee just noting in the future, to raise those issues.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you very much. I think that's quite loud and clear. I think maybe the resolution could be that we will obviously just monitor the development in that regard. I hope that's gonna suffice. Honorable members, is there any further hand for resolution? If there is none, then we can move to the minutes. Johan, do you mind flighting the minutes? I see no hands. Johan? Is Johan available?
If I am, Chair. Let me just get to that document quickly.
So I'm happy to share before you. If you allow me to share, I'll share.
No, Chair, I know you're challenged in terms of technology, so I'll share it.
Okay. Honorable members, the minutes as reflected, the members that were present on the day, I hope you are all reflected to be absent, so we can move to the next page. Looks like members are happy to have been absent on the day. The first page, as you can see, reflecting the feedback, obviously, comments received from George and Mossel Bay municipality, and we also considered the Western Cape Monitoring and Support of Municipality Amendment Bill, which was passed into law. Obviously, the chairperson moved to read into record. Okay. And the motion was seconded by 5, and then the noes were only 2. Means that the committee agreed to the bill, the amendment. Okay, clause by clause, the changes that were made is reflected in the minutes. And we are, yes, then the resolutions was that the chairperson requested the Department of Local Government to provide the committee with status report detailing all current vacancies across municipality in the Western Cape for the position of municipal manager, chief financial officers and directors. If that is correct, members, can I get a indication that we can accept and adopt the minutes?
I will propose, Chair.
Any hands? Honorable Van Wyk is proposing. Any seconder?
Derek Wessels will second, Chair.
Thank you, colleagues. I hand over to Honorable Bryant. We have concluded the meetings after the minutes. Oh, he's not there. It's just his face. Sorry. Johan, any other item that we need to look at?
Chairperson, no, that concludes the business of the committee. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, colleagues. That concludes the business of the day. All the best. We see each other. Some of you on Wednesday and others will see each other on Thursday in the house. Thank you very much. Cheers, Baba, Mr. Grant.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Cheers, Honorable Masipa.
Thank you,
Hello,
guys.
everybody.
Bye-bye.
My apologies. I'm back, and thank you very much, Honourable Masipa, for filling in. Fantastic work.
Thank you, Chair. Well done.
Thanks,
Thank you,
everybody.
Chair. Well done. Cheers. Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Chairperson.
Bye.